Gita, we have progressed. Okay. So let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Agnana Timirandasya Nananjana Salakaya Chakshumitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavscha Sri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatra Abhyascha Kripa Sindhavevacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascha Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So what did we do in the last chapter? So anybody remembers? Hare Krishna. So it was all about Raja Vidya Yoga, isn't it? And there were 5 sessions. We heard about Krishna, and hearing about Krishna, how is important, what the qualifications and disqualification. And this was an Aishwarya Jnana, because he is giving us about the Achinta Veda relationship with the material world. And also talked about non-worshippers and worshippers. And finally, it is Krishna as the supreme object of worship and the glories of directly worship. So it was a Raja Vidya, king of all knowledge. And it was, we should be non-envious. If you are envious of the Lord, we'll never understand this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and you should have faith in it. Only because as we hear more and more about the Lord and hear our faith in the Lord strengthens, and Shraddha, once it becomes, then we'll get the taste and our devotional service. So it starts up there. And how he described the Mahatmas were all the time, they know what the Lord is and they're sarvasam. And what they do, he says they always worship the Lord Krishna directly. Then he talked about the worship of demigods. He said it is avidya purvika. That means is that indirectly and they're less intelligent, and only people with less intelligence, we think it is avidya purvika. And only who worship the Lord directly will go back to Lord Goloka. Others will just go to either to the Putra Loka or to the Deva Loka, and then again come back. And then he talked about the non-vicious impersonalists who like to merge with the Brahma Jyoti. And Krishna says they have no intelligence. Okay. And then he finally talks about the activities of the Mahatmas. They have to do Nishkama Karma. Finally, he says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and austerities you perform, do it for the Lord Krishna. That is the way of going back to him. Then finally, he ends with Manmana Bhava Mat Bhakto Madachi Mam Namaskaro Mamai Maishasi Ruktvai Matmana Pantparayana. That is, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotees, Mat Bhakto, offer obeisance to me and worship. So finally, he ends with that. So this is what is the king of all knowledge. And knowing that, what we do by engaging, doing these 4 activities, we will go back to him. That's what he concluded in the last chapter. So, at the end of 9th, advises us to fix this mind on him, only then we can go. Describes the opulences on which a devotee can fix his mind and how to remember him when he see the opulent and beautiful things in creation. That one should become a pure devotee of the Lord by focusing on the. Now he is going to give us a description of, again, on Krishna's opulences, by hearing which will increase our devotion. The more and more you hear about the Lord, the more our devotional thing increases. Finally, there are 3 sessions in this chapter. And the first, we say he establishes his position as the origin of everything. 10.1 to 10.7. 10.8 to 10.11 is known as the Chatusloki, because the whole essence of Bhagavad Gita is in this 4 slokas, Chatusloki. Okay. And the last, from 12 to 42, we see the acceptance by Arjuna. By now, all his doubts are cleared and he wants to know more about the Lord. So his request to show opulences. So that's what covered in the next. So let us see what is it in Krishna, how he is establishing his position as the origin of everything. So in this session, he says, anyone knowing Krishna as unborn Supreme Lord and the sources of all sages and demigods is undiluted and free from sin. Just knowing this, that he is firmly knowing that he is the unborn, that is Ajam, and he is the source of everything, cause of all causes, then he is free from sin. And all qualities and attitudes, that is freedom, self-fusion, self-control, are all created by him. Even the progenitors of the universe are born from his mind. So everything is coming from the Lord. He is the source of everything. Even the qualities, even the attitudes, even the progenitors. So those who know Krishna's glory is engaging, because they know that they engage in his service. Okay. So the Supreme Lord said, my dear friend, Aitya Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit and which will give you great joy. See, even in the last chapter 9, he said, listen to me, Tashrunu. And by knowing this, you'll be relieved from the miseries of the world. And now here he says, I'll impart to you for your benefit, which shall give you great joy. So the knowing about him and what is the knowledge is imparting him is going to be marvelous. So, and here ask us to listen carefully as he will reveal more wonderful knowledge. So by this 3 chapters, we are only listening more about the glories of the Lord, because it's all about bhakti yoga, right? Chapter 7, he explained his different energies and how they are active. What is the inferior energy, superior energy? Then about how the material world is under the control of the Lord, and unless there's a superior energy, it cannot activate. Then Lord established his different energies to establish devotion in firm conviction. Okay. Now in chapter 10, he gives us more confidential knowledge of the specific opulences and his work. So we come to know that we are the spirit and not the body. Then we come to know we are the eternal servants of the Lord, and what's the thing. So why we have come and established a position now, and why we have to go back, and our purpose in life is to go back to the Lord. Then if you want to go back to him, and if you want to serve him, then we should know more about how great the Lord is. So that's what we're learning in this last 3 chapters. And here he is stressing on, if you want to know about the Lord, understand the Lord, hearing is the only process. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So only hearing is the only thing which we can think. And he talks hearing, eagerness to hear is the qualification. And discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Even in Bhakti Rasa, that is in Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha, you have to have Utsaha and confidence, that Nishchaya and patience. And you should have patience to learn about the Lord. Only if you have Utsaha, anything we do, We should have a passion. We should have eagerness. Only then we'll be able to, even in the material world, if you want to achieve some success or achieve something, you need to have the eagerness or the passion. Same here. Here is also eagerness to here is the basic qualification in bhakti. Okay. So, Name Vidu Sura Ganaha Prabhavam Na Mahashaya Adam Adiri Devanam Mahashinam Sa Savash. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, for in every respect I am the source of demigods and the sages. Because since he is the origin and everybody is all created by him, so the created beings cannot know the creator fully. So that's what he says here, the host of demigods and the great sages know my origin, cannot know my origin. For in every respect, I am the source. Okay. So he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he undiluted among men is free from all sin. So if the one who is fixed in this knowledge that he is the unborn, he is the original, because he is the first candle which is there and who is creating everything else. He is the beginningless. As the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he undulated among men, he is freed from all sins. Okay. So, and again he continues to say, Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha. Buddhir is intelligence, Jnanam is your knowledge, Asammoha, freedom from doubt. Shama Satyam Damaha Sama. That is forgive. Shama means your forgiveness, Satyam is truthfulness, Damaha charity. And the Samaha, Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhaho, Bhayam Cha Bhayam. Bhayam is fear, Cha Bhayam is the fearlessness, Evacha Ahimsa Samatha. Samatha is equanimity, Tushti is satisfaction, Tapo Dhanam, fame. Then Yasho Yashasa, Yasho is your fame and infamy, Bhavanti Bhava, Babhutanam Matta Eva Pratak Vidaha. That means everything, all these various qualities of the living beings are created by me alone. So, whatever we see the qualities, everything that is all coming from the Lord. Of course, it will be of different. So here he clearly says intelligence. Intelligence is to analyze things in their proper perspective. Knowledge is not the material knowledge, but the distinction between matter and spirit. Accommodations only talk about matter, whereas this is the knowledge. What is the Raja Vidya? And freedom from doubts and delusion can be achieved when one acts with hesitation, without hesitation, based on understanding the philosophy. Nothing should be accepted finally, blindly. Tolerance and forgiveness, Shama. See, you have to excuse the minor offenses of others. Otherwise, your heart will be filled up with all that hate and you'll be so heavy. Unless we forgive and give up our misgivings and tolerate them, then only we'll be calm and we'll be able to understand this knowledge. One should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. It's very difficult, but once you practice it, because our goal is to go back to him, not to fight with the other living entities. Truthfulness, facts presented as they are for the benefit of others, and we should not distort truth for some personal interest. Many people distort this knowledge, saying that, for their own shame, to attract more followers and all that. Control of senses. The senses should not be used for unnecessary personal enjoyment. That means you should regulate your senses. You are eating, sleeping, everything. Because he talks about it even in Ashtanga Yoga, 6th chapter, control of senses. Control of the mind. Because if you control the mind is your friend. If you don't control it, it becomes your enemy. So you restrain the mind from unnecessary thoughts like money. Power of thought should be developed in association with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Then only we'll be able to get the control of the mind. And happiness and distress. So come. We saw that even in chapter 2, when he says you have to tolerate happiness and distress. And because these are going to happen. This will be there throughout our life as long as we are in the material world. And these are things. And how do we tolerate them? How do we handle them? Only then we'll be able to we'll be qualified to become freedom liberate from this material. Always considered in relation to what is favorable and unfavorable to Krishna. And why he says this? Because this is what is said in purport. Because if you take up anything which is favorable for the Lord, devotional to service into Krishna consciousness, or if it's not favorable, then don't do it. Always you have to think in relationship to Krishna consciousness. Then we'll be able to tolerate whether it's happiness or distress. Because if that is what Krishna wants us to take it, we'll take it as a mercy from him. So these are the qualities being discussed in this 10.4 and this. And further, there are some more qualities which he discussed. Is the birth. See, if we are sold, there is no birth or death. And then he talked about fearlessness, abhayam, because if you are taken the shelter of the Lord, then you won't have any fear. Then non-violence is the not, I mean, here non-violence is not just to the animals or anything, but not to do everything which will put others in misery. You should not hurt others. You should have austerity of a speech and mind is being talked about in chapter 17. Same thing is what here said. Should not put others in misery, confusion, all distress, not checking anyone's progress in life. Okay. Then equanimity, samatha. Everything which happens, satisfaction with whatever we have. Otherwise, we'll be endeavoring for more and more and we will never get satisfied. So we should have cultivate that. And austerities and penance you do, it should be for the charity, dana. Give here, this is what the Rupa Goswamis did. They were great working under the Muslim rulers and they had a lot of money. So when they took the shelter of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then they gave 50% of their income to the Krishna consciousness people, and then 50%, 25, they kept it for, they gave it to the family members, and 25 they kept it for emergencies. So this is what we discussed, and fame, Yasha. Okay. So a man is famous when he's known as the great. Otherwise, if he is known, then he'll be more puffed up. He'll be more conditioned here. So these are the qualities which has been described here by Krishna. It says everything comes from him. Okay. So even the sages, even the progenitors, all are coming from the Lord. He is the origin. So he is unborn, that's beginningless, and even the qualities come from him. So then he continues to say the 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus are all born out of mind. And all creatures in this planet are descent from them. So this is a thing. He is the essence of all. And he is known as a Prapitamaha, the father of the grandfather, because we know the first Jivan living entity is Brahmadev, who was born out of the navel of the Garbhadaksha Vishnu. So he is and from him all the others are being created, progenited. So he is the grandfather. Okay. And there are 525 patriarchs of the living entities, which he mentions in this verse, 4 Kumaras. Who are the 4 Kumaras? Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatma, Sanat Kumara. Right? And the 7 sages are Kashyapa, Atri, Vashishtaha, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, Bharadwaja. Okay? And the 14 Manus, there's a list. Swayambhu Manu was the first. And then today we are in the 14th. So today's thing is been Vaivaswata Manu. He is the one we are in this present age. Okay. Others are all coming. So everything is coming from the Lord. So once we know that he is the cause of all causes and he is the beginningless and he is everything comes from the glories, then who knows him in truth is glory and power of mind, engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Tam vibhutim yogam cham mama ya yo veti tattvataha. So vikalpena yogena ujyati natra samshaya. No doubt. So what he does, once he knows this truth and glory of mind, he is a Mahatma. He is always engaged in unalloyed devotional service. Okay. Then now comes the Chatusloka. The Lord speaks the Chatusloka. That there are these 4 slokas are known as Chatusloki because the essence of all Bhagavad Gita is in this 4 sloka. So if you don't know any of the 700 slokas, if you remember this 4 sloka, that's enough. It describes what is the essence Bhagavad Gita Krishna is trying to speak. Okay, Aham Sarvasya Prabhaho. I am the source of all spiritual and material. Aham Sarvasya Prabhaho Mata Sarvam Pravavattate. Everything emanates from me. So, iti matva bhajante mam Buddha bhava samandita. Buddha, the wise who knows this perfectly, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So, here, really, it's like telling us about the sambandha. How we are related. So, unless we create a relationship with the Lord, unless we relate to Him, we won't be able to think of Him, or we won't be able to do everything for Him. We have to have some relation. It's like a person, if he wants to have a business with a friend, if he is a person and he wants to have two people want to have some business, what happens? First, they have to know each other, isn't it? He has to first find out whether that person, how he behaves, how his business is, how he handles the business. And he will try to contact him. He will have some meetings with him. Then he will call him for dinner. And like that, he comes to know him. And once he comes to know him, what he does, then only he will take the next step of having a business with him. So once they have a business, when they have the business, and then they'll have the profit. Then they'll be able to carry out the business very amicably because they know each other and they're able to think. Same way here, in this verse, the Lord is telling us how the person who knows everything, if he understands that the Lord is the source of all spiritual materials, everything comes from Him. And so he'll engage in my devotional service and worship me. Because of that, that means he starts by doing this, by engaging devotional service. What happens? He comes to know about this relationship with the Lord. That is his constitution position is that he has to serve the Lord. He is the eternal servant of the Lord. Once he is in that position, that is what we say, it's a sambandha. Once we know the relationship with the Lord, that everything, this is how we are related to Him. And then he engages in, what does he do? Abhidaya means is the relation. What does it? So here, aham sarvasya prabhavo mat sarvam pravartate. Result of knowing this, what happens? He worships the Krishna with all their hearts, engages in devotional service and surrenders to them. So he is the original source of all spiritual and material worlds. So this is a sambandha. And then what does he do? Matsitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charananti cha. That is, the thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing. That means there is the activities of the pure devotees. What they do, the thoughts are all about the Lord, and they are surrendered to the Lord, and they very much happy and satisfied in talking among the devotees. Bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about Kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti. That is how they are satisfied and they are happy with conversing about the Lord, about his pastimes, his leela, everything about the name. So, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction. So, this is the abhidaya, that is what the activities of how they relate. Once they have understood this relationship with the Lord, then they engage themselves in these activities so that they're all the time thinking of. So this is, and here we have, I don't know if I have anything, but you can listen to this. Hare Krishna, Hare. Can you hear? Hare Krishna. Can you hear this video? Hare Krishna.
We could hear briefly. We could hear briefly.
Okay, then I'll just share it.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So this is the thing, and you see here that was a Ratha Yatra which they had in US, and how the devotees were all. So symptoms of a pure devotee, Krishna becomes his life and soul, and he constantly hears about and discusses Krishna. So these are the two stages. They relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and they're always situated in the love of God, and thus relish the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in his above. So this is what it is all about. The pure devotee symptoms are, they are all the time thinking of the Lord, and life is fully devoted to his service. So my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, always endeavoring about. So these are the activities of the Lord. Always talking about the Lord, serving the Lord, taking his prasad, and hearing about the Lord. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and we have talked about the 9 devotional service. They are all the time engaged in that. So this is the thing about the text 9. Then so if the pure devotees are there who are always, they know him as to be the origin and the cause of all causes, and is the creator of everything and all the glories, then they are all that they worship him with their thoughts. They are there. The Lord is dwelling in their hearts, and they are always engaged in the devotional activities. Then if it is that, what is that? We saw about the Sambandha and we saw the Videya, then what is the profit? What is the Prayojana? Now that means, how does the Lord reciprocate? How does a Lord reciprocates to these devotees? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayat. What the Lord does to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, priti purvakam, I give the understanding by which they can come. So this is what the Lord does, because once he knows about his pure devotees, gives the understanding by which they can come to him. See, that means his mercy we have to get. So we are by constantly thinking, he will see how serious we are, because he's already there inside every living entity as Paramatma. Is that we cannot hide anything from him. And he knows how serious or how sincere we are in this service. So once he knows that, then what does he do? He gives us the understanding by which we can go to him. So dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So he gives us the understanding. He gives us the mercy. So this is how he reciprocates to the devotees. Okay.
Kandaji. Hello. Aya din hai. Anguru khao.
Hare Krishna. Take care of your background nurses. Okay. So to those who are constantly devoted and worship with love, I give the understanding by which they can come. Dadame buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So he himself is so merciful that he knows his pure devotees thing, and he gives them the understanding. That is the prayojana. So different stages. What happens? Karma yogi. And we have been talking about this karma yoga. What does he do? When one knows the goal is Krishna, but is addicted to it, he is not able to surrender all the fruits of his activities to the Lord. Nishkama karma yoga. He will be stuck with the fruits. He is addicted. It's sakama, but that's a starting stage, right? And whereas Jnana yogi, what he does, when one knows the goal is Krishna, but takes pleasure in mental speculation to understand Krishna, he is acting in Jnana yoga. Okay? But whereas the person in Buddhi yoga, what does he do? Bhakti yoga or Buddhi yoga, it's the same. One who knows the goal and seeks completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service is acting in Buddhi yoga. That means the Bhakti yoga is the complete, because this is how Karma yoga, he is stuck with the addiction to the fruits. Whereas Jnana yoga, they will be more and more trying to get by his own endeavor trying to understand the literature, he's trying to scriptures, he'll be speculating, he is acting in jnana. But if once he takes to devotional service, once he starts doing that and take the shelter of a spiritual master and act by that, do its sadhana, then is acting in the bhakti yoga. So this is the thing which is the different stages of a yoga, right? Tesham evan anukampartam aham ajnana jam tamaha nashyam atam bhavashyato nana deepena bhashvata. Out of compassion from Tesham, because eva certainly, because anukampa means it's a compassion. Because out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So he gives us the understanding and he's very compassionate. He's very merciful. What does he do? He destroys the ignorance which is there in our hearts, right? By giving us the knowledge. So we have to get the mercy of his by his understanding. And that, how do we do? Only by devotional service. By devotional service, we can get the mercy of the Lord. And only then we can disperse the ignorance which is there in our hearts. Jnana deepena bhashyanti. So we understood that we have to get the relationship with the Lord. We have to understand our constitution position, that we are the eternal servant. And our position is to serve the Lord. And by serving the Lord, by thinking of him and doing all the devotional activities, what does the Lord do? Reciprocate? He gives us the understanding to go back to him. Okay. Once he gives the understanding and is by his mercy, then he will destroy the ignorance by giving us the knowledge. Lord destroys all the impedance and disperse any ignorance in the heart with the shining lamp of knowledge. So here clearly Krishna is telling us how to go back to him. How we do that and why, how his mercy, with that we'll be able to destroy the impedance. Okay. So before we go back, I'll just stop here, because this goes to where Arjuna is now completely, his doubts are clear.